Thank you so much. This is the post-lunch slump, isn't it? So the graveyard shift. Let's start by raising our hands in the audience, or lever la main, or if you're American, stick the hands up and walk backwards towards me slowly, if you think that children should be banned from social media. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, got a good swell of opinion, even right at the back there. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's see if we can change some minds. Before we get into the panelists, let's set the scene. The tech industry is basically locked in a very hot debate right now between regulation, deregulation, safety versus innovation. Whilst the adults are arguing amongst themselves, the adults who invented this stuff, have we all forgotten about the children? We've seen growing political and public discourse over the last few years for online safety, particularly around people advocating, as we have here in the audience, for outright bans on social media for children or access. And the question really has moved on from whether social media does affect children. It's more about whether the harms outweigh the benefits at this point, to the extent that prohibition is the only course of action. We've got a load of good examples. I don't really think we need to labour the point about Australia. We need to talk about China. We have right here in France for under 15s, discussions in the Netherlands. There are growing examples in states in the United States about banning or restricting access for children under a certain age. So the examples are all very clear. We see research talking about excessive social media use to rising levels in children with anxiety, depression, diminished self-esteem. So these are the issues: cyberbullying, exposure to harmful content. Those of us who are obviously immersed in this 24/7 understand this. Algorithm-driven addiction. These are all key issues that exacerbate the concerns. And the ban, we are told, will protect our young minds from these issues, much like we regulate access to other things like alcohol or driving or certain forms of entertainment. However, implementing the ban presents a significant challenge, and we're about to hear some of those challenges. How would you verify age without infringing on privacy rights? Would that push children towards other unsupervised parts of the internet? What about the role of social media in community building and education? So these are some hooks that you might like to ask questions on. This will also be a very audience-heavy participation session, so please have your questions ready. So let's consider some of those theoretical issues and some of the more practical issues as we hand over to our panelists. And we're going to introduce who we all are, and then we're going to get straight into hearing from each of our panelists on their individual contention on the ban for young people on social media, and then we're going to throw it straight open to the audience for your questions. And I'd love to hear from some of those people that put their hands up about your contention and ask the questions away. So who are we? Is it working? Did it flip over?
You should just press the button,
Yeah.
the arrow down.
There we go. So I'm James Smith, I'm your moderator for today. I work in London, in the UK, at a company called PGI. We're a digital intelligence company sitting in those egregious harm spaces, looking back at the industry, red teaming, finding out all about those online harms networks, mapping them out, and supporting social media in their risk and compliance, but also their content moderation. So that's me. Please, I will now hand over to Vaishnavi from Vainam Strategies, and please go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Vaishnavi. I run Vainam Strategies, VICE for short. We are a child safety agency, and we advise companies, mostly platforms, but we work with civil society and government as well, on how to implement their child safety strategy. So this means helping them understand how their policies need to be rewritten, how the product design needs to be updated, what reporting or enforcement mechanisms platforms may need to build in, and what type of digital literacy or education might be necessary for the platforms. We work work with industries from social media to gaming to online marketplaces and to AI startups. And we're really happy to be able to support this conversation today. I think it's a really important and timely one.
Hi, so my name is Laura Blue, and I am representing an NGO called Respect Zone. And Respect Zone is a nonprofit that is working for or fighting online violences and online bullying for about 10 years now. And our main goals are to raise awareness with the field actions, to train and sensitize youth trainers in schools, in sports clubs, everywhere in the field that we can. And we also work with companies, and we mainly are working also to help victims and to provide legal access. And also we like to do a bit of advocacy work to raise this matter for everyone to see, and also for the public speakers that represents us.
Hello everyone, I'm Kesia Mutombo, the co-founder of the NGO Feminist Against Cyberbullying, and also the co-author of a book titled in French, Politiser les cyberviolences, which can be translated to understanding the political implications of cyber violences and cyber abuse. I'm pleased to share this panel today with very competent people, because I think this is a very serious issue.
Lovely, thank you. Well, let's go in reverse order now, because we can come back along the slides. Ketsia, why don't you talk us through what you've put on your slides as your position on whether to ban young people from social media?
I think I can see the screen, so I have to do all by with my mind. I believe that to ban children online, I said, is an extensive discussion, because it's less about should we do it or not. It's more about, can we even do it? Can we have the legal tools to ban children from entering some online spaces? How do we verify their age without taking much needed data, and even for technical reason, how we create solution and softwares, being able to do that. So I was following another panel, and there are solutions, but I think this is more a long-term solution rather a short-term one. But I firmly believe that we need to think about solutions to restrict children from certain spaces. I liked, James, that you said that we already do that with some form of entertainment or other things like alcohol consumption or even driving, and we need to think about the internet as a place where some spaces are not age appropriate for children. Some discussion, they should not be part of it, and they have also a more fragile mind. When I was preparing this panel, I was reading about attention and attention issues, and I think attention is a double way issue. There is the time we spend on our screen, and we know today for a fact that it can be sort of debilitating for minds, for willpower, for comprehension skills, but it also the cognitive distortions that a rabbit hole can bring when you spend too much time on the same spot on the internet. And to build critical thinking, you have to have multiple sets of knowledge and information, so you can balance out all these informations. And to end my presentation, I also think that the main issue we face regarding children online is also about sharenting. Sharenting is the actions of adults creating content with the medias of children. And nowadays, it's parents, it's families, it's even sometimes educational teachers or adults that take care of children in school settings, that take pictures, that take videos of children and put them online without the consent of the children. And they are young people that can really fathom all the implication about having your image spread online. And it's also makes children feel like online interactions are mandatory, are not something you can control and not something you can say no to. So often children enter and create online social media accounts, but they already got bad habits from adults around them.
Thank you so much. Laura Blue, would you like to give us your contention?
Thank you. First of all, I would say that I kind of align with Keisha right there. There is a lot of good points, writing that we should think about online interactions, not only social media, but also the space that we take online as a driving license, driving test, I guess. And so for me, there are 3 main points. The thing is that bans should be a last resort, but consider action. Because, as we said earlier, there are health issues related to it. There is a lot of peer pressure regarding to it. We should not just consider social media. We should consider just online interaction. What do we call social media? Or online gaming social media? I don't know. Maybe they are. I'll be happy to have the discussion later. And then, of course, we said all this. Internet has an important role in development, in social development, in nowadays especially. As Kisha said, we as adults, but also children and under 18, feel like there is an urge to be on social media because it's part of social life, it's part of engaging, and it's also a part. It has a crucial part in accessing data for education and knowledge in every kind of ways, developing habits or not hobbits, sorry, so excluding them would be difficult. Because it would feel like an exclusion, then we should definitely consider where they should be still allowed and where they should be not. And so my final point is mostly, I think maybe we share this point, is that banning them would definitely highlight that the failure of tech companies and users to make online spaces safe for under 18, or at least under 16 or 15, I don't know what we call a child. So it would be definitely a drastic measure, but maybe because tech companies, government also, because we're saying that we're talking about different laws in European countries or in every kind of countries all over the world, thinking about banning them would be the simple solution for them to be safe or safer. But there is a failure for the companies, for the government, but also from from users. Kisha was talking about parenting. Are we going to protect children just because they're not online? But what about sharing their pictures online? It's still making them part of the online world. So there is definitely something that we do at Respect Zone is that we educate, we prevent, and we talk with adults and all type of users, young and not young, about how to behave ourselves online, how to report, how to have safe habits, and definitely this is something that we should definitely consider before banning children offline.
Thank you so much. And Vaishnavi. Oh, let me go back one slide.
Thank you. I think that both Ketsia and Laura Blue have raised some really interesting points today. Coming from the perspective of working with companies to help them implement their solutions, I think bans can be very appealing in theory, but they are quite difficult to implement. For one thing, we don't really have common consensus around what is social media for children. So for example, when we talk about social media, I think most people think about a Snapchat, a TikTok, maybe an Instagram. Are you thinking about Discord servers? Are you thinking about group chats where multiple classmates are talking with one another? Is that social media? Yeah, are we talking about Roblox worlds? Are we talking about games in which there is voice chat? Is that social media? So the implementation becomes quite challenging once you get into the technical aspects. And I think they're very appealing to multiple stakeholders. I think for parents, it's very appealing to think about just cutting off access to a social experience online. To educators and to regulators, I think there's an intuitive appeal. However, once you try to think about actively enforcing a ban, you have to contend with, of course, we've talked about the challenges of age assurance and age verification, but that's actually not necessarily the hardest part anymore. We have really great technology that's emerged over the last decade that can accurately and in pretty privacy-preserving ways predict the age of users online. What's challenging is banning them from the platform. In some way, parents would still have to be involved. And you could get a situation that's very similar to today. For example, and I think I have this in here, that's the second point. This is the third point, so I'll get to that in a second. The second point I want to flag is that from a company perspective, a ban on social media may not necessarily be a bad business decision. It provides a lot of regulatory certainty. When you know exactly what the regulator expects of you, you can go and implement. If everybody has to ban children from social media, then there's no competitive loss. Everybody is experiencing the same competitive loss. And it wouldn't necessarily be the worst outcome, especially because, as most people know, children and teens will find ways to get around bans. So for a company, it actually wouldn't be the worst thing to say, sure, we have done everything that you asked us to ban children from our platform. You will have to figure out what the new and improved ways of getting around the ban are, and when you tell us to do something, we'll do something. actually puts a lot of onus on regulators and parents and educators, more so than it would on companies themselves. And this leads me to the third point, which is ultimately talking about the existence of children in online spaces as a ban could actually be riskier for child safety in the long run. If you think about a law that we have in the United States today, the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, COPPA, it states that children under the age of 13 have to have a different experience on these platforms. And most of these platforms will say that, yes, we do not allow children under the age of 13 on our platform. We have a zero tolerance policy. Some will say, well, we ask the person for their age. If they tell us they are under 13, we don't let them use the platform. As you can all see, that is a very sort of easy option for companies to take. And so when you talk about a ban, there's quite a real possibility that you will have under 13s on these platforms without, or under 16s or under 18s, whichever line you want to draw, without an age-appropriate version of the experience for them. And so, our position generally is that it's more important to think about recognizing that young people are going to be online in some way, that they're going to want to engage with these tools in some way. How can we create age-appropriate versions of those experiences for them that gives them the connection, the community, the positive experiences they can have while building in safeguards against some of the worst experiences?
Thank you so much. I've got a lot of questions, but then I came prepared because I'm moderating. I'm going to throw it open to the audience. You've heard a lot there. Take us straight away at the back. Hold that thought, please. Technical feasibility, social benefits, parenting, responsibility, key elements here. But please, sir, go for it.
From the Age Verification Providers Association. I'm involved in the trial in Australia of age assurance technology, and a lot of that has been around the 16-plus social media ban. And I'd recommend that people look out for that report in the summer, because I think it's going to help understand if it is possible practically to implement that sort of thing. My question is a bit different. Do you think we could design a social media platform with many of those common features we associate with social media that is suitable for my 11-year-old nephew?
Vaishnavi, I'm going to give that to you because you made the point about positive use of tech.
Yes, I think it's possible. I think a really good example of a product that no one really talks about too much, but is really quite great, is Messenger Kids. It's Facebook Messenger for under 13s. It's for 10 to 12-year-olds, and it's a wonderful product. It's not available in Europe. There's been a lot of challenges with bringing it here, but if you are in the US and you can download it and play with it with your kid, it's a fantastic product. It's well curated, it's thoughtful. Parents can see exactly who their children are friends with. They can they're flagged if any suspicious activity occurs. It's a great social platform. And actually, I think that some of the younger social experiences for kids may not look like traditional social media platforms. They could look like a social experience within a game, a social experience within an auction, closed servers, chat rooms. So I think it is possible, and a very, to me, putting my capitalist hat on, a really exciting opportunity for building great experiences for young people.
May I add something? I'm with you. I'm on your side. I think it's possible to build a platform suitable for children. For example, I saw many gaming online platforms where there is a chat where children are banned from using certain words like kiss or hug or I love you. Those are texts that can be sent, and I believe that we should look more into it about vocabulary that can lead to some type of abuse or violences and expel them from those places, making them really specific about the topic, the interest these children are gathering around.
I would like to add something. A bit controversial, maybe. I'm very sure that it's possible, but I'm very skeptical that where is the business in this? For example, we take the French or like European perspective on this. You can try YouTube Kids. Have you been on YouTube Kids? Have you seen how fast you can get not a good content for kids? It's kind of concerning, and especially we could also say that as a business, I would like to advertise on my on my platform, and we know how many restrictions there is in France for advertising for children. So I would say that maybe it's possible, and of course it is. I think we have the tech. Have you seen downstairs, right? There's a lot of tech right there. I think we need the want. And maybe we also need, maybe it would not be free, as our social medias are for adults. So yeah, just more question, of course, but if we are debating.
Thank you. Andrew.
Yes, thank you so much for such an interactive discussion. Having, yes, thank you so much again for having such a thoughtful, interactive discussion. So coming from a background in working with children who have offline harms such as trafficking, child abuse, or discrimination based on race or sexual orientation, I've also often seen social media, particularly more in the messaging area, be a space to identify resources for support, particularly, for example, during COVID, the National Sexual Assault Hotline in the United States saw an incredible spike of calls from children. And they thought as COVID sort of, I wouldn't say dissipated, but restrictions relaxed and kids went back to school, they thought the kids would, in their words, sort of drift off, but they didn't, they stayed, and share those resources with other kids. And so my question, or maybe kind of hopefully an entry point into discussion, is how do we navigate the harms that social media have while not minimizing some of the benefits for some of the more marginalized children who are finding offline connections to be harder to get access to?
I totally agree with the aspect of resources finding, even help finding aspect of the social media. I believe that even in France, during the lockdowns, many children tried to reach out to social services to get help about domestic violences. So online is also can also be a safe space, and that's what I try to point out also in my book about the feminist victories we got because of online organizing. To me, we have to stand firm on the fact that the internet and social medias are places about community organizing, about finding resources, even comfort. But we need to, like you said about the business models, about how can we create more children-friendly social medias. We must stay alert about the business model. Recently, the change in algorithm, to me, I see, had a negative impact on the common user experience on many social medias, because you now can't really follow and read people you share the same value, you are interested in their research and in their then talking points. nowadays social media are mainly about inflammatory content, about engaging, about discourse, and even via discourse. So I think we can do the part about the benefits and the bad, but we have to be very technical about the bad aspects, being social prejudice like discriminations, but also algorithm and the economy of attention. Attention, yes.
I love your question, Andrea, because I think this is one of the reasons we came into existence, which is, historically, and we know each other. So I previously used to be in-house at a number of companies doing product and policy design. My colleagues are in the same boat, so we're all folks who have done this before, but recognize that for most platforms, they're never going to have the budget or the team to have a full youth safety team or a youth safety product and policy kind of focus team. So that's what we do. We work with companies to see, hey, what are the great features of your product? How can we really leverage those? What are the vectors for harm in your product? How can we minimize those? What are the alternative routes that we can take? So a couple of examples that can be helpful in the messaging context. We know that there are two ways in which messaging is most valuable to a child. When it is somebody whom they know from an offline engagement, so they have some sort of like offline relationship, or it is somebody with whom they have a very significant amount of shared interests. I'm talking like 5 or 6 different shared interests. When those two come together, it's the most powerful kind of connection for a young person. So as we onboard users to a platform, looking at what their interests are, where they're engaging, who might be a good person to matchmake with. For example, in the gaming context, when you're thinking about two players, where like, oh, this player seems to enjoy this kind of a collaborative game where they're acquiring these kinds of jewels. Oh, that player seems to enjoy that too, and they seem similar in age. Okay, let's have them play against one another. That is really powerful. And when we do user surveys of satisfaction surveys, we see children reporting just really high levels of satisfaction with their experience. When it comes to getting help or resources, the more we can address that help into a moment of crisis, the more helpful it is. So, for example, surfacing in-app notices, if you can detect that the person might be, let's say the user just blocked someone. That's a good moment to say, hey, it looks like you might be having a negative interaction with this person. Here are some resources that might be helpful to you. Sending them into a chat with a trusted counselor or hotline or resource in that moment. That's much more helpful than telling them at the very beginning of the experience, did you know that you have all these resources available to you? Because most people don't, it doesn't matter until they're in a moment of crisis. So those are just a couple of examples of how we can, in the messaging context, improve the quality of the experience.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Please.
Hi, Lina from Verify My. Thank you so much for such an interesting discussion. I've been wondering, and I would love to hear your thoughts, I think that what I'm hearing is a ban is not necessarily the solution, and it's more about trying to approach it from a sort of how do we build more safely, by design, with age-appropriate experiences, etc. How does that actually work in practice? What's the common baseline of what's appropriate for 13 plus, 14 plus, 15 plus? And I've been wondering, is there anything that we can learn from the offline world when you think about kids games that are 5 plus, 10 plus, 12 plus? Can we have online standards almost in terms of thinking about the features that are more appropriate or monetization? You mentioned that. Are we going towards this? Is it very far away or not at all? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll take this one first. For me, definitely, we need to think about respect by design. This is something that at Respect Zone we're proud of. Like, that's something that should be think as the product is built, as Shani said. I think your question is hard. Like today, how does it work? For me, it's not working. Like I would say that we would not be here today asking ourselves those questions concerning those laws arriving if children were safe online. So I think there are ways to make them safer, definitely, that we could put today in motion. There are tools like Family Link or Apple Family or everything that helps to regulate time screens, interactions. I think that social media companies or others that rules the online interactions I've put in motions like how do you set up your profile. They have like teens profile now. I think that's great. When the people that I work with are talking with under 18, when you ask them what age are you under your online profile, how old are you online? Oh, I'm like Jesus. Oh, wow. Okay, you're very old. Nobody is, like, no kids, like maybe 5%, say the real age that they are under online. And so this is like a key message that we tell them is that, okay, you don't want to be 13, you don't want to be 11, because of course they are all online even before 13. So we say, okay, but just put under 18, because under 18, there are ways to be a bit safer online. For example, when they report a content that is not okay for them, if they are plus 18, if this is pornography, for example, what is the platform going to say? But it's okay to see sex, you're 18 plus. But no, the kid is not. So there is like this is something that needs to be shared. And to be aware that, like we said earlier, like to put the ban in motion would be very hard because there would be like an intensive cleanse of users that is kind of impossible to do. And so yes, raising awareness, saying that tools exist, like at least setting your profile right. It helps. It's not going to shield you, but it will help. And also having the good tools as adults, like to accompany youth online, to keep the dialogue open. We talk about online interactions, but there are so many offline interactions about online that we need to have. Like. If you see something that's going to bring you nightmares, we are here to talk to you, even if I didn't the fact that you're going to use Instagram. I am your guardian, I am your sister, I am your aunt, I am your teacher. I'm here to talk about those things. We need to really integrate the online aspect of our lives into the offline because we still think about this very separately, still. And we really need to consider it like more gently and integrate this into education, like full-time education. Like, so yeah, there is a lot you said and I forgot a lot. I hope it brings a bit of answers and I'll give the mic.
I have a couple of specific things that might be kind of heartening to think about. It feels like a given now, but until 5 years ago, most under 16 accounts were not private by default. That happened in the last 5 years. That happened, I was at Instagram when we launched private by default for under 16s. I was part of the teams that helped roll all those measures out, and now it is sort of table stakes for most players in the industry that if your account is under 16, you should be private by default. People shouldn't be able to just reach out and find you or be friends with you without you intentionally setting your account to public. So that's an example of like safety by design that is now kind of the standard across the industry. Where I think we are lacking as an industry is more intentional collaboration and coordination on what those standards should be. And I think everybody's reluctant to be the first person to implement something, but I think there's more work that we can certainly do as an industry. We're at VISE, we're trying to facilitate that cross-industry collaboration with some of the work and reports and things that we're putting out soon, but that's definitely an area where more is needed.
I'd like to add something about what you say, Laura and Vaishnavi. I believe that we often underestimate how much people like to have a personalized experience online. When you ask many people about the TikTok algorithm, I love my For You page, it suits me so well. Even about YouTube Kids, I didn't even know it. It's my nephew who showed me it. I believe we have to trust that people, even children, like to have a personalized online experience, and we need to take more feedback from them. But also to create more age-appropriate built-in design. We need to have more frequent collaboration with professional like psychologists, neuroscientists, civics organization. Coming from a non-profit, I can tell that tech companies try to work with us. I won't lie about it. They try to work with us, but it's not really close ties. We do not succeed yet to build close ties and to understand in more human psychology way technologies. How can we make safety more like, more sexy, more like, oh, okay, I want my online time and space to be safe from harm, safe from harmful rhetorics. And I don't think that children are really reluctant about it. It's often that they feel like they feel left out when they indicate their true age. They feel left out and can follow their real interest. But I don't believe that people and children don't like having a personalized online experience.
We have time for one more question, and we're going to go for the lightning answers. We're going to go for 1 minute answers each, please, panel. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. So I'm Denis, and well, unfortunately, I have an unpopular opinion because I think that technical word that we discuss is just a way for parents to escape their duty, our parents, as parents. Sorry. So I would like to know, because to educate children, we need to also educate parents about how to use social media. So I would like to know, in France or in UK or worldwide, why is there not more programs to do some formations about social media, because social media came without preparation. They came in our lives, and now it's really, really difficult to do something without them. So how could we educate parents? Because, well, it's difficult, as you say. Parents put picture of their children on social media. They use screen as parenting, and also I speak only in France because I only know this situation. I'm sorry. I know that when when children come in secondary school, they have to have WhatsApp, to have all the information about classroom and teachings, and that's not normal. So how could we educate parents and adults in general, please?
So before I hand over, just to quote the poet Philip Larkin, as we all know, he wrote, "They fuck you up, your mum and dad. They may not mean to, but they do. They fill you with the faults they had and add some extra for you too." So please, let's solve the parenting crisis in 1 minute each.
Yes, it was not an unpopular opinion. I totally share it with you. We have an issue with adults and parents and how lightly they take the internet subject. And to illustrate it, when I started my organization, Feminist Against Cyberbullying, we were often told that online violences exist because children are a bit stupid, they are young, adults will never do that. And the more we kept going, the more we saw that it wasn't an age-related issues. We faced the same threats from women that were 30 to teenagers, so it was not about the age. So we need to have more spaces, more moments to have formation for parents. And it's not only parents, because sometimes it's even the uncles, the friends of the parents that take pictures, that use children as memes. So oftentimes it's other adults that are not even related to the parents. So I think we need more popular education, more time, whether it broadcasts online on TV, but even in more physical places, we have to have more workshop towards adults, and not using online violences as a way to berate children. Oh, you don't have manners, you are not polite, you don't realize it's also an adult issue, and you are right. We need to tackle this.
Maybe we should ban adults. Laura Blue.
Yes, we should. The end. No, just one more thought. Yes, I said this already. To make the online world safe, we should all users should be educated about freedom of speech and its limitation. European ways, French ways, US ways. There is always limitation to the freedom of speech, and also to content creation. But we talked about this earlier. Respect Zone is what we're trying to do, create spaces to educate all, even parents, especially parents, and all adults, actually. It's very hard. It's very easy to have workshops with kids. It's very hard to have them with parents and concerned adults. The only ones that are coming, even when we organize them at schools, with cities and everything, that's only the parents that are very, very involved in their kids' lives, and it's very hard to have a larger crowd. So we decided to go to companies, because we believe that if parents don't have the time to come to their kids' schools or to community spaces to engage with us or with others. Of course, I am not the only NGO working on this or public speaker. So we will go to them in their own companies. Some are very open to it. Some are less open to it. But we believe that, yes, definitely, we adults are maybe the main concern today. When I started working at Respect Zone 5 years ago, cyberbullying was something that nobody kind of knew. Today, when I go in schools and I hear 10 years olds telling me, oh yes, this is cyberbullying. And I'm like, okay, this is not really cyberbullying, but at least you have the word. Now I can see that the word is spreading and that the concept is arising. And so, but yes, so a part of the work is been done and it still needs to be done. But definitely we need to keep going and educate olders. Thank you so much.
And Vaishnavi to close us out.
I don't disagree. I think, yes, parents should be involved. I think we have tried to get parents involved for 25 years. That's what all our digital literacy, digital citizenship programs have been about. We have done marketing campaigns, outreach campaigns. We've tried. And it's very difficult for a number of reasons, which we don't have time to get into here. When we design products with companies, we have a pyramid structure to talk about safety, and the base of the pyramid is platform protections, so the baseline protections. Then on top of that is controls for the child to control their experience, and at the top of the pyramid, the smallest part of the pyramid, is parental supervision. The idea being that the controls are the baseline protections are strong enough, and the controls are strong enough that parents don't need to take care of the whole stack. So agree that parents have a role to play, but they shouldn't be responsible for the whole stack. But it's a whole other panel could be had on this one.
Well, thank you, panelists. I think the importance of this subject is reflected in the additional length of time, sorry, Caroline, that we've gone on, and the numbers of people that we've got here today. So thank you so much. As a parent myself, I'm very interested in this. Mine are 6 and 4, so may don't have the problem just yet, but imminently, by the sounds of things. Yeah, that's right. Just as we close out then, let's have another show of hands to see if we are still on the set. I know some people have kind of circulated in and out, but where are we now as an audience? Who's for the outright ban still? Hands up. Levez la main. Is that you, Tom? Brilliant. Good. All right. So I think you've done a good job there. You've managed to convince the doubters. And thank you so much. And please join me in a round of applause for our wonderful panelists.